Your tattoo jumping on. I can see it in my mind. It doesn't matter, I can picture it however I want. However I want. Actually, can I just do it like this? No, I only really want the chat. There we go. I think we're better hypotheticals. Better hypotheticals. I think we're better hypotheticals. I can see it in my mind. Can climb the ladder to the pedestal and keep on.
Finally awake, Commander. Thought you were dreaming of a vacation on some sunny beach. Not the best fantasy these days, huh? Anyway, welcome back to reality. We're almost there. Checkpoint Alpha. They've been holding out, but they need reinforcements. That means us. Alright, get ready. You're dropping in 20. And Commander, watch your step out there. It's not just the dead you've got to worry about.
Hello. Just remember, for me to be able to see you guys in chat, you have to be in the portrait mode on YouTube.
The city's overrun by a zombie virus. And while not everyone has turned into a zombie, we need to try to save them.
Wazda.
But at the same time, make sure the infected don't get into the zone. That's your job. Let's hurry to the checkpoint and start examining the survivors.
Do you have any interactables in here? What if I need these pens? So this is just... Do I have any guns in here? Oh, okay. Just spawn point. To get you on my mind. Run, baby, run for your life. Run, baby, run.
Just shout next, and the soldiers will let the survivor in.
Okay. See me again, say want me again. Oh.
So, the first survivor. Approach him and take a close look.
Just allergies.
Are there any symptoms that immediately catch your eye? Of course
Oh,
there
he's
are.
orange.
Just look at how red his head is. You absolutely must record this symptom on the symptom map.
You are in a quarantine zone. Stay calm and wait for your turn. Prepare your belongings for inspection. Remove your outer clothing and
This subject only shows one symptom, but it's unclear. Send him to quarantine so we can monitor him.
Wait,
Look for
why?
symptoms,
I'm fine.
mark them, and classify them. And good luck. Next.
Please. I've lost too much already. Don't make me turn back out.
Do I not have a gun? Where are you? I'm so sorry. I cannot think of I don't see any like bites on him or anything.
No, you don't understand.
Come on.
I was bitten by a dog, not a zombie.
Yeah, that's not a dog bite though, so.
Please, just tell me what's happening.
All right. That's it for today. Hit the bus. We've got another long day tomorrow.
I like that it's through like 2 different barriers. You wouldn't want to have just a single barrier to something like that. Nice. Nice. Well, how do I make money? Oh. I make money by killing zombies? How do you make money by killing zombies? That seems crazy.
First, check out everyone in quarantine.
Oh, wrong way. Did anyone perish in quarantine?
Great.
Identification
He's still
verified.
alive.
Quarantine
Go over
status
to him
stable.
and call
No
him in
incidents
for a
reported.
recheck.
It's
He
just
doesn't
allergies.
show that
I've had
previous
them since I
symptom
was a kid.
anymore, so he can be moved to the block.
Wait,
Tools
why? I'm
help you
fine.
spot symptoms faster. Grab the scanner. Now, call in the next one and use the new tool on him.
Go ahead. Play God again. Let's see how we ruin this time.
What was the... What about this dude? I think this guy...
Finally! I'm safe! Kids made it from yesterday. I just need to join them. I can't believe it. Thank you.
Identification verified. Quarantine status.
Oh jeez, I was gonna say, are they gonna murder that guy? I don't think I sent him to the liquidation place.
Don't make me wait.
Please. My wife's already inside. She's waiting for me.
The hell?
No, you don't understand.
Move it.
What's a flashlight do?
I was bitten by a dog, not a zombie.
Yeah. Nah.
Is this another chance?
Hello! Hi, Little Red! Glad
You
I
are in a
could.
quarantine zone. Stay calm and wait for your turn. Prepare your belongings for
I bit
inspection.
my lip. It was
Remove
all.
your outer
Look,
clothing,
see?
hats, glasses,
It's not
and gloves.
serious.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be an immediately no. I'm doing alright. I'm just kind of low energy today. I am the zombie. I'm actually the sleeper agent in here. So she's gonna just
You're scaring me. Where am I going?
Yeah.
Come on.
My kids just made it through yesterday.
What?
I just need to join them.
Uninfected? That's a possible, not a for sure. Better safe than sorry. What you are doing, babe? I'm the wonderful, the wonderful. Yeah. Oh! What does it say about giant black spots on your back? Necrosis? Okay, so necrosis for sure. What are the for sure ones? Green, red, bite mark, eye pus, nose pus. But what, she doesn't just. I see. Mouth blood's not an indicator? That's nuts to me. Okay, the zombie bandages are for sure. Yeah, so she's gonna go.
What do you mean, special processing?
I was on your team, honestly, too. I was like, for sure this lady's not infected, and then lo and behold. Oh, okay. I was gonna say. Please only say it's not me, it's you. I'll do everything else. So right now I'm playing, let's see. Quarantine Zone demo. I guess I should probably put that somewhere. Easy, easy, make me so please. Where's media text? Right there. Where did I put that? Okay. Rename. Game name. Do 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 do. And I feel better. Cheerleader, 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 cheerleader. Okay. And now I go to the bunk. I accidentally killed one. But, like, if you're bleeding from your face, come on. That's crazy. Well, now I know. I guess bleeding from the face isn't
Everyone
alarming.
you've checked and let through is staying in the block. And until the evacuation happens, you need to keep an eye on them. Make sure there's enough food and space. Let's focus on the base today.
Okay. Base management.
As you can see, there's no food or fuel for today. They need to be brought in from the warehouse. But first, you have to buy these resources. Restock the warehouse. Buy supplies and fuel for everyone in the block. Great. Now that the warehouse is loaded with supplies and fuel, you need to deliver them to the block. Head over to the warehouse. Load the supplies and fuel onto the cart. Pick up the card. Now, deliver the supplies and fuel to the block.
Oh no, a driving simulator? Why would they do this to me? This way I'm supposed to be going. Oh, this is... This is bad. This is how you guys learn that I can never do Grand Theft Auto. We need to do to the block. Is there a map of where I need to be going? How do I get to there? Use this. Oh no. Okay. I thought this was where I went last time. Oh,
The
okay.
supplies need to go to the dining hall, and the fuel to the generator.
Yeah. That was a bit of an overreaction.
Excellent. Everyone's fed today. Go get some sleep. We're not checking any new survivors today. There are reports of large zombie clusters in nearby areas, so we need to be ready.
Am I just trapped? Okay, it was E to get rid of that. Time for to sleep. Oh man, people are expensive.
Warning, massive zombie attack. Warning, massive zombie attack. Warning, massive zombie attack. Warning.
Oh, I have a
massive
drone? Oh, it gets hot and it has to be reloaded. Oh no, eventually they're just gonna make tiles. Is it the last one? I was defeated. Predictable. They've incorporated the two things that I'm the worst at, which is shooting and driving.
Warning, massive zombie.
Funny enough, I'm not bad at those things IRL. Just terrible at it in game though. am I not killing these zombies? And try that again.
Warning, massive zombie attack. Warning.
Now we play a
massive
game
zombie
called
attack.
When Will Riley Break the System by her board game.
Warning, massive zombie attack.
So, like, are they impenetrable once they get to the wall? Is anybody keeping track of the defeat counter on this? Because it is pitiful.
Massive zombie attack. Warning, massive...
Please send me an airstrike.
Warning.
Oh man, this
massive
is getting
zombie
crazy.
attack. Warning. Massive zombie attack.
Protect base. Control of combat drone. Oh my god. I could move the whole time. Awkward. I was like, why does it have the WASDA?
According to our data, survivors have developed new breathing-related symptoms. To check them, use this stethoscope. Pick it up from the table.
Oh, it's just another day at the office. Where's this stethoscope?
Move it!
I bit my lip. That's all. Look, see? It's not serious.
You are in a quarantine zone. Stay calm and wait for your turn. Prepare your belongings for inspection. Remove your outer clothing.
Have kids in there. Please. You can trust me. I'm healthy.
off.
Have kids in there. Please.
Which is crazy because I have no
I
choice.
feel okay. I promise.
There's a broken glass over here. Yeah, she seems good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Don't make me wait.
My kids made it through yesterday.
Guy
I just need to
Fieri.
join them.
You are in a quarantine zone. Stay calm and wait for your turn. Prepare your belongings for inspection. Remove your outer clothing, hats, glasses, and gloves.
Scratches. I want to let me show his pants. He has scratches. But that's pretty much it, so he goes to quarantine.
I feel fine. Please, don't do this.
Hello, hello. Now, I think that's the last person, right? And that's the last person. Now we go to the bunk. And go to sleep.
Today's the evacuation day, and you'll get a reward for the first batch of survivors. Survivors have developed new symptoms related to their pulse and temperature. To check them, use the thermal pulsometer. Pick it up from the table.
Just have to get spare power. Tablet. Base. Generators. you for following. Alright, so I've clearly missed some sort of whatnot. Maybe they need more supplies, perhaps? What supplies do we need? Replenish. We're gonna end up needing more of that. Which means I'm also gonna need more of that. How much money do I have? Almost none. Okay. So I'll need those. Where's that from at? Just so you know, the comments don't come up unless you're doing it on the portrait mode on YouTube. So I can't see them unless they're on there. Probably. Oh, does it stack them too? Oh, that's nice. I went the wrong way. No! Yeah, I'm still not able to see you guys' comments on YouTube. Uh-oh. Oh, it's going pretty good. This is technically like my afternoon, but I woke up super late. So, I was intending on playing a different game today, but the demo for that is out. Or, not out, completed. It's called... Oh, where's that? I think it's Our Darkest Days or something like that. Into the Dead, Our Darkest Days, yeah. So that one's like a side-scroller zombie game, which was pretty cool. I was going to tell you guys there is, like, in the character select, there's, like, different debuffs each of the character has. And I guess if I were a character, I would be prone to illness and injury. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll bring up the community page for just a second. So I'll pause that. And then, where was it? There it is. Community page. There we go. Oh, that's in Russian. Okay, well, let's maybe see if we can find one that's... And that one's Korean. Okay. Maybe... Maybe the game will just have it in its artwork. Ah, here we go. Okay. Window capture, add source, new source. Okay, so as you can see on here, let's see if I can see it. There we go. So you can see on here that the different traits that the characters will have when you have the option to recruit them is they'll give you their positives and then their negative. So her positive, this particular character, Christine, her positive is that she has a green thumb, which gives you more items when you have a garden, which I think is probably a later thing that you can get on your base. She's a good forager, but she's injury prone, so she's not a good person to use in combat. And then they have other characters as well. Yeah, where visit the store page. So it's a side scroller 2D zombie game basically, and you're going through like different areas and you'll fight zombies and climb over stuff. And it gives you like a little map of locations to like select where you'd like to go. And then you have, this is what kind of the crafting interface looks like. There's a bunch of different little quests you can go on. Where? Yeah, I think that's all they've got on that. But it's also really similar to a game I enjoy called The Long Dark, except The Long Dark is open world, and this one is like a side-scrolling zombie game. It's based in Texas in the 1980s, and you can pick the different survivors you begin with. There's different pairings of survivors to start the game with. Like there's one guy that I think the ones that I picked were, the one guy has an affinity for guns. He's a gunsmith. And then he gets paired with, I think, some like lanky kid, I think is who he gets paired with. This Steam sale, I don't know. I've got quite a few things on my wish list. Let's see what I've got in there so far. Back to Steam. Wish list. Oh, ignore that. I'm a weeb. I'm trying to be brave with some horror games. I'm not very good at them. I really want to play Sifu. I think my friend has that, so she'll probably loan it to me. I've played Wolf Among Us before, but I've never played it all the way through. The last time I played that, I played like 2/3 of it on a tablet, or not on a tablet, on my PlayStation. I have the Rising. I just borrowed that from a friend. So, I'd like to play the Isle, but I don't know if I could be able to stream the Isle. I don't think I have the processor to be able to play the game and stream it. Drawing Guess, Building Full of Cats, Tiny Glade, Into Our Darkest Days. I've got some pretty weird stuff in here too. No judgment. Cat Simulator would be fun. Vampire Rancher is also out. That one's new. I played the demo of that. It was pretty fun. It's kind of like, I think it would be sort of Animal Crossing, but your little 8-bit vampire person, and you're growing crops and stuff, which is pretty fun. It's also very similar to Grimshire. Which is a little bit more of an Animal Crossing sort of situation. I think I would prefer it if they weren't little animals. I'm not really a big fan of the characters being little animals. I think it's cute that, like, you can be like a little rabbit or a fox, but I think I'd rather just play as a little villager, because you would think that there would be more. Oh, that's cute. It's building a little fence. You would think that there would be more conflicts, like sort of more of like a Zootopia kind of status. You know, like you can't have like a fox and a rabbit live next to each other. I think that would be kind of a problem. And if you're not going to address that like portion of the game, it doesn't really interest me like specifically. I also used to play this game, but again, I don't know if my computer has the processing to play this game. I think that this is also multiplayer, but you build like a little medieval village and you hunt animals, and your goal is essentially to have a dynasty. Your goal is to be able to produce children and make a village, and then ultimately expand into like newer territories and stuff, and then you become the I think the first thing you become is like the village. I think it's a vicar. No, that's what the church. You become the like the village magistrate or something. Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Steam sales. Usually what I do is I'll put the games that I'm interested in playing just on my wish list, and if they've got like, I don't know, usually if it's like over a 50% discount, I'll just get them. It does look fun. It's actually, they did quite a bit of like research and stuff into it. This is the final trailer for it. I'll pop that up so you guys can look at it. Oh, it looks like you can go to battle. You can go to battle now. I got it when it was early access. Or rather, I borrowed it when it was in early access. Oh, nice. There's like apothecaries in it now. Oh, cool. You can adjust your appearance and stuff. Nice. Yeah, before it was sort of like more of a base model. Nice. The crop harvesting mechanism of this game is pretty dope, too. I like building the little villages. It's kind of fun. It's sort of like a city builder if you got to like also deal with the aspects of like animal husbandry and sort of The Sims. It's kind of The Sims medieval, I think, is what I was looking to find, because The Sims used to have a medieval game and it was pretty dope, but then I think it was a CD-ROM game. And then everything went away from CD-ROM, and then you had to get a digital copy, and it took them forever to like do that version. Right. I think to a degree it would be nice to have like sort of an auto crop situation, but the way that they do the auto version is you essentially assign villagers tasks. And so that's the like automated version of it, is you just like tell Jim in the hut next to you that his job is to harvest all of the crops. but you have to be like crop specific and field specific, because otherwise he just like will sort of dink off and pick mushrooms or whatever instead. Oh, nice. NPC encounters coming. And there's two different versions of it. I think there's the the sandbox version, and then there's Oxbow, which I think is the one where you can't interact with other people. So you can like make a village with your friends if you want. And then let's see some more of my favorites. Drop down out of that. Medieval Dynasty. Yeah. This game honestly really makes me hungry for mushrooms. I've been like trying to hunt down chanterelles to make a tasty like there's this Witcher kitchen soup called Mahakam potato soup, and it's fire. It's so good. But you have to have chanterelles, and they only grow in like meadow, pretty much like birch meadows essentially. So they're really popular in the Pacific Northwest, but it's like a real pain in the ass to get them. But they're so good. They're like the best mushroom ever. Once I have my little homestead, there's a cultivated version that's an Asian version of that mushroom called a Maitake frondosa, which is a gray version of a golden chanterelle, kind of. It's called hen of the woods, more colloquially. And that can actually be propagated on like a mushroom log. Hold on, there's just a delay on chat. Oh, for YouTube, I actually can't see your messages on the Streamlabs chat unless you're in the portrait mode. So there'll be a big delay on whether I can see you guys' messages. I don't know how to turn that off yet. If anybody knows how to turn that off and make it so that I can have the both directions. Oh, there we go. Yeah, the Twitch chat just repopulated. There's such a huge delay on the chat. I really wish Streamlabs would figure that part out. Okay. What are new and noteworthy? Let's see, preferences. Nope. DLC for me. What does it think I would like? Oh, this is just DLC. Wholesome games. Gotta say I'm a big fan of like cat games. Big fan of that. I played the Castle Full of Cats the other day. It's essentially just kind of like a puzzle. When Steam output is split. Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm usually not much of a cozy game person, but I've kind of warmed to cozy games because it's easier to stream with. Because I sort of just like zone out and don't pay much attention if I'm playing something that's like too brain intense. Which I know what you're thinking. It can't possibly be that brain intense, but my brain is running on like Windows XP. So, cattails. Oh, cute. A little kitty cat story. Oh, we played this the other day. It's called Squeak Ross. Let's show you guys the trailer for that. That one was pretty fun, actually. It's like Minesweeper Sudoku. And then you'll get little furniture for your houses that the little mouse can interact with, and you can make the mouse like a cute little mouse, or I think you can make it a rat as well. I haven't played Stray. I think that's in my wish list. I think it's in a wish list somewhere. I played. Oh, that's cute. So this is essentially incorporating like The Sims and Sudoku and Minecraft and this adorable little mouse. I'm gonna be honest, the cheese furniture I think is super cute. It's honestly a really nice game for like stress management too. Like if you just want to kind of vibe, you just get to hang out with this cute little mouse. Stray seems pretty cool. Isn't it like sort of a sci-fi apocalypse cat game? Is it an apocalypse game? Oh, cute. You can make it little pizza. Pizza fondue. Nice. Oh, cute. I didn't notice that there was a little wheel and little seeds and stuff. Nice. I want to know if this Squeak Ross game is multiplayer. One sec. Is it multiplayer? I think it's early access. Nope, not early access, I don't think. I don't think it's multiplayer. It'd be cool if you could visit like another mouse's little house. Like maybe play together, but I guess oh, here's the customization so you can make a cute little mouse. And then they put a lot of heart into all of the decorations and stuff like that. I think they did a really good job. They got really good artists on this game. You can have like a little medieval mouse. That's so cute. I love when you can tell that like, oh, cute. They put like a lot of time and effort into this, and the little mice have outfits and stuff. Pretty cute. I feel like indie gamers really put a lot of work into their games. More like this, yeah, it's basically. This one is a camper van one. My friends would love this. They want to be digital nomads, essentially. Figure out how to put your entire life into a van. You'll live in your mobile pod and you'll love it. Crazy. You know, camper vans used to just be for people that wanted to like go on like a little weekender trip with like the family. And they had like kids or whatever, so they couldn't just, you know, have a tent. And now it's like people's entire homes. And I think a large portion of that is against people's will. I think if given the opportunity, people would rather just like have a home and then have like that as an alternative for, like I said, for like travel. Hopefully that gets remedied in the near future so that people can actually have access to like the housing that they would prefer. But enough about politics, I guess. Sticky business. Ooh, what's this? Indie puzzle games. House flipper, architecture life. Oh, that'd stress me out. There's one thing I'm bad at, it's math. Power wash demo. Ooh, that'd be fun. That'd be sick. Neva is good? Let's check it out. Let's see what it's about. Petting a dog. Excellent. Oh my gosh, petting a dog weasel. Is that a fox? Pretty. Oh, it looks like a side-scrolling kind of situation. Cool. Oh no! Evil antler fox. Oh, cool. Is it like sort of Princess Mononoke kind of? Pretty. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty. Let's put that in the wish list. Boink. Oh, I think Apothecary Diaries is on today too. If you guys don't watch that anime, it's awesome. And it's not like super romance heavy. It's mostly like, I think, mystery. There's also 2 light novels. One of them more focuses on the mystery side of it, and the other one focuses on the romance. So it's really good for either or. Let's look at some new releases. Infant Oath. No. Brain Rot Hamster Game. Just jumping in a wheel, kind of. Prism. Baccarat. Nice. Gambling. Interactive recommender. Okay, so here's what it thinks I want to play. Stardew Valley, probably not. Especially if they're little critters. Is this the one where, is this the one? Yeah, because I think, usually I'm not a big fan of, like, 8-bit games. I've been getting more into them, but. You've inherited an old plot, hand-me-down coins. Can you live off the land and grow? Yeah, I would actually probably like that. That's probably something I should just stop fighting. Wolf Crest. Love Wolf Quest. I played that when it was still in the very early access thing. Big fan of that. Because I'm a millennial, and I went into sort of biology and ecology for a bit, I had to write at least one paper on wolf reintroduction every year from 6th grade until halfway through college. And I honestly... Oh, there's a Wolf Quest Classic. Wolf Quest Classic. Yeah, the boxiness. Nice. Yeah, I think I, like, was one of the early adopters of this game, too. You're basically just, like, you hunt creatures to survive, then eventually you find a mate, and you have puppies, and then you have to move them from the spring to the summer den, and it basically, I used it in the past when I was, like, nannying and stuff like that to teach kids about, wildlife and stuff. It's pretty cool. And then if they did, like, their homework, I would let them, you know, play with it, and they would have their own little packs and stuff, and they get really competitive, children, when you give them animal games. Nice. Yeah. Stardew is human thing. Which one am I thinking of? It's probably Animal Crossing, isn't it? I think it's in the name. Oh, if you're in Canada, like I said, I really am a big fan of The Long Dark. That one's based in Canada, actually. Oh, like teaching about the environment and stuff, kind of. Niche. This seems like something I would really enjoy. Let's hear what this says. Oh, it's just not gonna play it. But basically, you're like a fox. And it deals with stuff like geographic isolation and different traits and such. Oh god. Oof, that is an unfortunate looking creature. Yeah, The Long Dark is awesome. I've been playing The Long Dark for a long time. Probably close to a decade. I haven't played it in a minute, but that's mostly just because I get really nervous about the radioactive wolves, and I'm not ready to show that part of myself on stream yet. At one point, I would have people play, like, there's a map in The Long Dark that's just a big, long train on top of a frozen lake, and it's just, like, teeming with radioactive wolves, and I would get so nervous when I would have to go through that I would just have somebody else play it for me. but then I had someone play that level for me, and they gave me a permanent negative 10% debuff with Frostbite, and I never let somebody else play that game for me again, because I was like, how could you do this to me? And they're like, you told me to play for the wolves with you. And I'm just like, yeah, but I didn't ask you to give me Frostbite, dog. Like, what the hell? Because I get, like, jump scared pretty bad. And so there's, like, a mechanism where you have to, like, I think you have to, like, click. Like, you're in the struggle or whatever, and it's, like, you have to click, like, rhythmically. But I get, like, too nervous, and I'm like, and I, like, misclick. Also, games that are super, like, jump heavy, not really great at jumping games. There's like a whole level of like puzzle jumping situation in Alice the Madness Returns, and it took me like a month to get through it, and then finally I just had my roommate like jump through it, and she's like, this is what's been taking you a month? And I'm like, yes. It's I don't know what it is. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's just like maybe stress. Like, I'm just not great at those mechanisms. So I think if I was ever going to create a game, I would put like some sort of like handicap section on it. Yeah. So like if you've like messed up the jumping mechanism like 9 times or something like that, it's like, are you kind of shit at this? Let me just simplify this control for you. But I think you should get like a little achievement that's like terrible at jumping or something like that, so people know. So you can't just be like, yeah, I 100% of this game, I'm so good at it. Because I also have a friend that plays Dark Souls on like the super hard mode, and I understand that I think there's an achievement for when you do games like that, like you play it on like, you beat it on like ultra hard or something like that. But I think there should be an achievement for if you beat the game, but you have to like disable the jump mechanism. Yeah, niche would be cool. I think honestly this thing just like sucks up all my browser history and stuff, and it's like, my cousin wants me to play Hogwarts Legacy, but I don't think it's multiplayer. I'm not really like a big Hogwarts person. I'm way more into The Witcher, which is why I'm so excited for. Oh, I played Shelter as well. I think that's basically the same as Wolf Quest, but you're a lynx instead. So cute. Yeah, I have no idea why it would suggest this to me. That sounds terrifying. It's In the Dark. 4-player co-op psychological horror. Paranormal activities on the rise, and you and your team use ghost hunting equipment to gather evidence. I don't think that one's for me, personally. I played a bit of Subnautica. That one's a little bit much for me, too. Until recently, I couldn't swim. I just kind of never learned. And so the idea of, like, having to play an ocean-based game where you're swimming and driving vehicles is, like, probably one of my nightmares. I think Spore was one of the early, like, evolution games that you could play. I think there's also, there's a version of Subnautica that's, like, going to different planets, too. I think it's from the same developers. Worldbox. I think it has a different name. You know, I might play City Skylines. I think that'd be pretty autism core. I think that'd be pretty fun. I have this theory that when you add more lanes to a road, it actually causes more congestion and traffic because people can't merge. Also, I'm not a big fan of when people add large structures and like sort of busy thoroughfares right next to the highway, because then you get bottlenecking. I really think that city planners should have to play more simulation games before they get to do their jobs, because I don't think they fundamentally understand how traffic flow works. And granted, I probably don't know how traffic flow works either, but I think it's probably pretty important to understand that if that's going to be your job. Though I don't think there's a lot of like pre-qualifiers for elected officials that I'm aware of. Like, for example, if you're going to like run the post office, I think you should have like sort of a base level knowledge of like how that works. Because apparently like the postal enforcement agents are like super crazy. Like probably bigger than the CIA or FBI because they have a 98% case closure. So if you steal from the post office, it's actually like the most dogged pursuers in all of the government, from what I've heard. But anyway, I think that, yeah, that one would definitely be autism coded, and it's on like mega sale. Maybe we should get that. I've played Red Dead Redemption. I want to play I want to play the first one really bad. I've played the second one all the way through. Oh, what about The Forest? Is this the one with cannibals? I think that's the one with cannibals. Ugh. The Wild Hunt. I've played The Wild Hunt. Yeah, the first one. Because I think in the first one you play as John, don't you? Because they're like backwards. Like, who's the main character in Red Dead Redemption? View page. Rockstar game. Nice. Vengeance game. Yeah. I would say personally John was not my favorite. He was not my favorite character in Red Dead Redemption 2. Because it's like, you know, and hopefully this isn't a spoiler because this game has been out for forever. But you go through all of that, right? So that John can have a good life, and like Red Dead Redemption 1 is what he does with it. Like, hopefully it's good, but I'm gonna be real pissed off if like John wastes his essentially like retirement and you like saving him from, you know, a life of crime essentially. Yeah. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 was pretty fun. I really liked Arthur Morgan. He was pretty dope. Real sad he got tuberculosis. That was a bummer. There's zombies? There's zombies in this game? I don't want Are there zombies in this game? Oh no. Western zombies would actually be kind of fun. Nice. I also, big fan of the racism and sexism when you're playing the online mode of Red Dead Redemption. Like, they're like, a woman. I don't like when we, like, retcon history, because as someone who couldn't really pay that much attention in history class, it really, like, jacks up my view of, like, prehistory. It's like, no, everybody was super copacetic and cool. And I'm like, sure, that's why nobody in Europe likes their neighbor. And it's like, I would rather learn through a video game why things are the way that they are than to have, like, sort of a retcon, like... Because I think you would learn better from getting to, like, be sort of immersed in it. And I think that that should probably be more prioritized. Like, I guess if they wanted to, you could be able to, like, turn that function off, and then it just gives you, like, the character interactions from, like, you know, a different character's point of view. So, like, if you wanted to play, like, as a character that looked like you, but you didn't want to have that, you could turn that off, like, turn off the historical realism or whatever. But, I mean, I personally like it, so I don't want it to be, like, taken out of my game, personally. You know, like, that's part of the fantasy of it. Like, if you're playing a game, yeah, it's way less immersive. And I want to forget about all that. Like, did everybody forget how they were kind of ruining games forever by making everybody, like, a cyberpunk lesbian? And, like, you know, who's that for? You know what I mean? I think that the niche of people that want games that way is so much smaller than the others. So if they want to code that into the game as, like, an option, I think that's fine. But I think trying to shoehorn it in as the main storyline is probably a mistake. Like, for me, at least. And I think that's probably the consensus of the majority of people that play games. So I think that if you had that as an option you could turn off in a game, then I think more people would purchase a game that had that in it, as opposed to just not purchasing the game at all. Like, if I want to make my character, like, I don't know, like an obese bisexual turtle or whatever, then that should be something I could turn off and then, like, adjust. But if I just want to play as the default, like, I think I should be able to do that. Like, is it the Far Cry games I'm thinking of? That you play as, like, a jacked adventurer? It's the one with the cannibals, I think. And I think if you're going to have to play a game where you're, like, super hyper realistically, like, in shape, like where you're cave diving and crawling around and climbing things and, like, mountain climbing or whatever, I think that you should play as a character that, like, realistically would be able to do those things. Unless it's a Magic game or whatever. If it's a Magic game, then it's like, it's Magic, whatever. But I think it just makes the game worse when you add too many things that you have to. There's a phrase for that in suspension of disbelief. So if I have to suspend too much disbelief to play this game, then I'm just not going to get the game. And I think that hurts the developer and, you know, the people that worked on the game. Because it's not a bunch of work to do a game, especially to do a game well. So I think that it should be taken into account. And sort of the people that are just going to whinge and cry about it and be like, oh, well, if I can't make the game how I want to make the game like this, then I'm not making it. And it's like, well, then don't make it. Because if nobody's going to buy this game, then it's just a bunch of wasted effort on everybody's part. But, you know, there's a market for anything, I suppose. So I think combining those two elements of it, like I said, if you had, like, an option to turn the realism off or to, like, lower the realism, then that would appease the people that want to do that. But then for the people that appreciate the realism, and it'd give another playthrough of the game. You could play through, that's one of the things I really loved with Baldur's Gate, is I played through it the first time as, I think I played through it as an elf ranger, because I love a good self-insert. And I played, it was a wood elf ranger, because I was like, that makes the most sense for that type of class and race. And then I played through the game again as a drow, because I still wanted to play, and I got a completely different experience. It was essentially a completely different game, because you dealt with severe racism in the humanoid stuff, but, like, the entire first act was so easy, because everybody just let you do whatever you wanted to do, because you were, like, team bad guy, pretty much. And I thought that was really cool, and it made me go through and learn a bunch more about, like, D&D lore, because, like, I've played D&D before, but I've never played, like, with that level of knowledge and understanding of the game, because I was worried about metagaming, because, you know, autism rules, or whatever. And I played through it, and I was like, wow, I learned so much about, like, Lolth Sworn Drow and Illustri Drow, and, like, the backstory and the history of all that. And those people put a bunch of work into it. And so it actually, like, stoked more of my search for knowledge on that. And I went through and I learned more about that. And then I went through and was like, well, you know, what's the difference between this and this? And I would read through all of them, and it just made the game way more immersive. And it made you question, like, well, why is this different? Like, what's the difference between this and this? Because fundamentally, it just seems to me like this is a nighttime elf and this is a daytime elf. Like, what would be the difference of that, other than, like, maybe the biomes that they've, like, come from, you know? Because I know that the drow are, like, an underground race, sort of, so they would lack, I would think they would lack pigmentation, personally. Like, I think the sort of the paler ones make more sense. But you know, like if it was more of the, it's like, I would think that a drow, an underground drow, would look more like, who's the mom off Cruel Prince? She's like albino, essentially. Like, this is what I would think that a drow would look like. And yet you get drow that look like this. And I'm like, well, I mean, it seems kind of interesting to me that, like, obviously when you're making races of characters, you want to make them look distinct. Yeah, like, if you live, for example, think about, like, the creatures that live under the sea. This is why they had such, like, everybody had such a issue with, like, the recasting of The Little Mermaid or something. If you took a creature that lived at, like, the bottom of the ocean, where it's devoid of light, then they are, like, translucent. Like, they wouldn't make pigmentation because pigmentation is a reaction to the sun. So people that live in, like, sub-Saharan Africa and stuff like that have, like, much higher instances of melanin. I mean, even in, like, the movie Dune, it doesn't necessarily make sense that they wouldn't have, like, more pigmentation because of the sun. Now, once again, if it's, like, a sci-fi situation, or if it's, like, magic, you could be like, okay, well, that's not the case because of this or that. But, like, if you're going at it, if you're not trying to, like, recreate the molecular structure and order of an entire planet to do your thing, then it would make sense that they would be this way or that. And so it would make more sense if things that are in areas that are devoid of light would be translucent or some form of bioluminescent. And, like, for example, the creatures in James Cameron's Avatar, they have blue skin because they live in a jungle. And so they're living essentially in the shadow of the under canopy of, like, these massive trees and stuff like that. So it's, like, sort of more of a camouflage sort of aspect. And then I think that would... I think that because of, like, the mushroom forests and stuff like that in the Underdark for the drow, that would kind of make more sense. Because they're, like, living within the under canopy of, like, a mycological forest. So that would make sense. But super cool. Like, all the different races and stuff like that. And also, like, you'll notice that in... I mean, I think people are kind of hesitant to just ascribe, like, hypermelanism to, like, canonically evil characters and stuff like that. So I think that's also, I guess, sort of an interesting route to go with. But, you know, if you're just using dice rolls to, like, determine things, then eventually you're going to get stuff that, like, sort of pushes the envelope. I mean, and the drow are, like, canonically, like, a super hot race, too. So they're, like, these crazy spider people. And even in, like... there was, like, a choose-your-own-adventure app ages ago that was, let's see, what's the app in here? I want to say it was North Star or something, maybe. Yeah, let's see what it is in the app library. I have it in here somewhere. Oh, it's called Delight Games, and it was essentially, like, an app-based choose-your-own-adventure, like, RPG style. And they have, in one of the chapters... Oh, what game was it? Basically, in one of the chapters, you're trying to hide... I think your vampirism or something like that, and so you transmute yourself into a drow so that you can go through this city and sort of cure yourself or solve some problem, or you're hunting down, like, a wizard or something. There's different stuff, but everybody's, like, really suspicious of the two drow, because the one girl, she decides she wants to be a female drow, and the guy decides he wants to be a male drow, but I don't think if I remember right, he doesn't understand drow society because he's not built like that. And so he picks a male drow because he's like, obviously I want to be a male drow, but the male drow are treated like less than human or whatever in drow society. So he just has to kind of like get bitched around essentially by his companion. Oh, I remember it was. He is a thief and she is a witch, and he's trying to make to steal something or make a bunch of money or stop this cult or something. But it was pretty fun. I read through a bunch of that, but then I think those people probably got poached for some game. Maybe they even got poached for Baldur's Gate or something, because it seems like they put a lot of like RPG style, choose your own adventure sort of stuff in that, within reason, of course, because you have to have a functioning game. But I think so far, Baldur's Gate has my highest play hours, and then next to that would be either The Long Dark, Red Dead Redemption, or The Witcher 3. And I think it's The Witcher 3. I think it goes Baldur's Gate, The Long Dark, The Witcher 3, and then Red Dead Redemption, if I recall correctly. I think that's how it ends up shaken down. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to break a couple eggs to make an omelet, and if you're going to make a really great game, I think it's going to take literally blood, sweat, and tears, because I feel like you could hammer out a pretty good cozy game, but like the timeline to have an extremely good game that everybody enjoys, I think the longer you take on something doesn't necessarily make the output of it better, because I think they had that issue with Cyberpunk or something like that. But whereas Baldur's Gate, I don't even know how long it took them to make that. Fantastic game. Especially taking something like Wizards of the Sword Coast and creating that into like a PC game. I mean, revolutionary. If they could figure out how to like make an AI version of like a D&D game, they'd have like a license to print money, honestly. And they've already done all of the research as far as going through with like all of the research that they had to do just for the character creation and stuff like that in that game. I think if they could figure out how to, like I said, make some sort of an AI-based D&D game on that, they might not ever have to make another game again with how much money they would print with that. I think that the amount of people that would purchase that game might actually crash Steam. I mean, truly, honestly, especially if they could figure out how to make a version of that for like Xbox and PlayStation as well. I mean, just insanity. Like, I guess you would have to make the receiver for Xbox and PlayStation like mic driven. You would like have to tell the computer what you intended on doing. And you could put fail safes in there too. It would be like, this is too complicated, like simplify your request. And if it can understand your request, it could like weave it within there, within the confines of the story. That would be amazing. One day, I would like to play a VR Dungeons and Dragons game. And so ideally, that is in the works, because it's probably going to take at least a decade for that to come through. And then you can play like as an old grizzled adventurer too. Like these kids are going to have access to like so much more gaming. Like when I was a kid, it was Lord of the Rings Return of the King on PlayStation 2. That was, I think, the first game I played. And then I got interested in, I have like an old retro. Exactly. And essentially like D&D in that version would be such a teachable method. Because, like, the biggest gripe a lot of people have with D&D, other than, like, getting a game together at all, is that it takes forever. Like, at one point, I was playing D&D for, like, 3 hours, so I have to drive to my buddy's house. That took, like, an hour, because he lives in the middle of nowhere. And then we'd sit there and we'd play for 3 hours. And our DM would just, like, describe the most mundane shit. And that would take a super long time. And more often than not, I was leaving the games thinking, like, what have we done today? Like, this was such a colossal waste of time. I could have, like, reverse engineered an entire book in the amount of time that we just sat there. And I'm just, like, mentally peeling the wallpaper off of the wall. Like, this is not, this is not the vibe. And I think a lot of people have issues with D&D games with that as well, because I think a good DM is really hard to find. And I think a lot of the problems in that particular group arose when the DM wanted to play the game, because one of the players was his wife. So, like, he wanted to play the game with his wife. Why wouldn't he? Nobody wants to be the DM every single time. And you have to have kind of like at least a baseline knowledge of the game to be the DM, which is one of the things where I had a shortcoming when I played that game initially. But if they had asked, like, oh, can you DM Riley after I played Baldur's Gate, I'd be like, hell yeah. And I could do at least, like, a quick one-shot game, just based off of the knowledge that I accrued from that alone. And if we could figure out how to make, like, a Baldur's Gate level version of, like, a history game, like, that's where I think the Assassin's Creed games really shine, is, like, I have no desire to, like, journey to Greece or Ithaca or, for the large part, like, Italy or any of those places, because they've done such a good job, like, mapping out all of that stuff. It's like, it almost feels like you've already been there. I mean, we were watching... What were we watching the other day? We were watching, The Return. The Return was so good. I avoided watching that for forever because I thought it was a musical, but if you want, like, a continuation of the Odyssey, I would like to see the Odyssey portrayed the same as it was in the movie The Return. That one was really good. I want to say that would probably be my second favorite rendition of, like, male power dynamics next to Tombstone. And I mean the Tombstone with Heath Ledger in it. Not Heath Ledger. Is it Heath Ledger? Heath Ledger is the Joker. His name is Val Kilmer. God, that's embarrassing. But the 1993 Tombstone with Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell is peak. If you haven't watched it, it's fantastic. It's as close to a historical rendition of a Western movie as you'll find. And just the dynamics between this group of men is so interesting to watch. And I think that if more games and movies could capture that essence, that would be fantastic. That's also what I'm trying to sort of do with Where the Feedback Ends, is I wanted a gritty punk style version of sort of The Great Gatsby and Nana, where it's like elements of longing and sort of finding yourself and being in the wrong group and recognizing once you've become part of something better and bigger. And we've got technically two more chapters in the epilogue, but I am looking to be finished with that probably Sunday. Sunday I'll probably finish that, and then I'll do a real quick run through Monday, format that, and then hopefully by July 4th that'll be out for ARC reads, and I'm just going to direct publish it once I've got that all finished, because I think for the most part that was much easier than the fantasy book, because I have to world build with that, and this one I didn't have to do as much world building, so I got to just focus on, like, the characters. And once I read through, and if everything is as it's aligning in my brain of how these characters are at their base, and the decisions they've made, if those align with their unseen intentions as well as their expressed intentions, then really, that's kind of it for that one. And then for all of July, I'll just get to decompress and play games with you guys, which also keep in mind to read the descriptions when I come out with these live streams, because I'm trying to put in there different things for you guys to do in the comments. Like, for example, this live stream, if you guys would drop your favorite zombie game into the comments. I'm looking for recommendations because I'm trying to find some fun multiplayer games to play for when we do just like gaming months, because I don't want to just alternate between writing and gaming in a weekly basis, because I want people to be able to, like, if it's an immersive storyline kind of a situation like Red Dead Redemption or Baldur's Gate, I want people to be able to kind of like tune in for that, not miss anything. Let's see what the spin my spin exploratory. Nice. Yeah, and like I think that the vast majority of people don't really understand history that much, because history is taught to us in such a boring element. But if you were able to do like essentially like your history homework and stuff and it be immersive, I think that, I mean, obviously people are against us learning history for reasons of state, but I think it's important to know those things because it gives you a glimpse into the behavioral psychology of people and the dynamics within the cultures and stuff like that. And that'll help you understand sort of like the motivating factors of people, as well as like sort of the trajectory of everyone's future. And I think that those are things that, like, fundamentally as people we should understand and we should acknowledge. But I think that there is a vested interest in people not knowing those things. But as far as like game development and stuff like that goes, I really enjoyed this book called Heir Apparent. And it's written by a lady named Vivian Van Velde. And she wrote that probably 20 years ago or something like that. This was like 1980s, 1990s or something like that. And it's about this girl that goes into a virtual reality game, which at the time I don't think existed. So this was like a contrived element of this woman. And she goes into a game, and it's essentially like a Kingsmoot factor, because she's talking about she wanted to play an RPG game with her friends, but she's no longer close with her friends, so she only has herself to play this game with. And it's you can play as either a boy or a girl in this game, and you go in, and the king is dying, and so he has to choose one of his heirs in order to ascend the throne or whatever. And so you have 3 half-brothers, and then you are an illegitimate heir, but because the king is fond of you or something like that, you're being included in the Kingsmoot. And so you go through and like your decisions matter and you do these different things, but when you die, you get restarted into the original level, which I think is a super fun concept for a game. I would love to play that. And if that already exists, somebody send it to me, because I would probably play that for 30 streams in a row. That game sounds so fun to me. And I think the thing that's come the closest to like being a true rendition of something similar to that would be Baldur's Gate. And so it is my extreme wish that they pick up like a shorter, like one-shot version of that game. So instead of playing 500 hours of Baldur's Gate, I think it would probably be closer to like maybe 100 hours for the entirety of the game and all of the different decisions you could make, I guess. Because the first playthrough she does, she tries to, I think, make an alliance or something like that. And I think the guards kill her because she, like, sets a poacher free, and they're like, get rid of this urchin or whatever. And so then she goes back and she's like, okay, well, I don't want to be murdered by the guards, so I'm going to not go do that. I'm going to go do this instead. And then she tries to make an alliance with one of her brothers, and they poison her. And then she comes back through, and she has to, like, fight a dragon. And you would have, like, a couple of different... I mean, there's only so many paths in, like... It's essentially kind of like an RPG Otome game, sort of, except you're not dating them because they're your half-siblings. Although, that might be an interesting game as well, where if it's like you're a princess from a different land or something like that, and it's some sort of like if you're a royal from a neighboring country that also has some sort of right to be in this Kingsmoot, then you could also make it into a dating simulation where you do a political alliance instead. But then you would have different things in the game. Like you would still have like poisoning and betrayal and stuff like that. But I think it would be a fun game to play, and I'm desperate for someone to make it. So if anybody has any connections or anything like that, let me know, because I would absolutely play that game for sure. But so far, I think, the games are either in like a medieval setting, because that would be the one that it would work the best in. Although, I guess you could make, like, I think Suzerain and stuff like that comes pretty close, or I think The King's Dilemma, I played that one as well, but they just, I don't know, they didn't hit like I wanted them to. As far as like, oh, nice. Yeah, the game of 10,000 emails. Crazy. Also, I'm a big fan of emails, so, like, not receiving emails, but crafting and creating emails, big fan of that. So if any of you guys, circling back to the fact that this is a reading and writing stream, if any of you guys are working on writing your own book or writing your own piece of fiction or anything like that, I have written, will have written 2 books in under a year. My first novel is Bite. It is a vampire romantasy. That's my debut novel. It's got a grumpy main character and a sunshine vampire, ironically. And they are going on a journey to return to the region he's supposed to be ruling, but for reasons unknown to you, he's not. And then the second book is Where the Feedback Ends, like I said, which is a contemporary fiction novel where I'm working on Great Gatsby, Nana. It's where how do you grieve someone that's not dead, and essentially like dealing with the fallout of like your best friend ghosting you and just the rigors of a young adolescence or a young adulthood rather, where you're trying to find yourself when you're untethered in your life and the different directions that can go. It also touches on elements of abusive relationships and things of that nature, which I'm trying to kind of puzzle through how to delicately address those in the remaining chapters. So that one's going to come out, and then yeah, I think it would be really fun. I would absolutely play those games. And then the next book that we're writing, I'm starting in August. It is a billionaire romance. It's got found family, and it's sort of like the first couple of chapters give that season 1 Game of Thrones vibe. So you guys will be unsure who the main character is, I think. Yes. Oh, really? The story? Yeah. It's really fun. It's so Where the Feedback Ends also is sort of a modern rendition of Gatsby, because I don't think that Gatsby dealt with elements of like drug abuse and fucking a bunch of musicians, which I'm not actually sure if I'm allowed to say that on here, but I think it's far enough in stream I could probably get away with it. So yeah, it's kind of just sort of hedonism and then like really finding the path to like the life you actually want to live instead of the escapism that you're in. And I think that that'll be kind of like a cathartic release, because I keep just jumping around different genres. It's probably the ADD, honestly. But the next book, like I said, that one is going to be called Moon and Marble, and it is a oh, well, I don't know. We'll probably deal with that. I mean, who determines what that is, right? Because like I think I got pretty close to it in my Baldur's Gate thing, because there's no differentiation of races and humans, but there is differentiation of like every other race in that entire game, which I thought was interesting. Because even when you're playing Skyrim, there's a differentiation of like Redguard and like Velen is Velen is the Witcher, but there's like Red Guards, there's that one's like the most notable name. Skyrim human races. Yeah, duh. There's Nords, there's Brentons, Imperials. You know, like different regions are, if they have a great enough distinction between how they look and how they act, then it's like it's a different racial type. But I thought it was interesting that they had omitted that from the Baldur's Gates. And I think that they probably did that on purpose. But like I said, even in The Witcher, like the Zerganians and, you know, people know what region you're from. And I think a lot of the times that, like, when The Witcher enters into a new area, they're like, you're not from around here or whatever. And people have distinct dialects. People have a distinct way of dressing. People have a distinct way of acting in these different areas. Like, I mean, even if you look at Europe, like the French are different from the Italians, even though over a long enough period of time, those traits will diminish considerably with intermarrying between regions just because of natural travel within, like, people. But anyway, we're getting a bit off topic. The third book coming out that I'm going to start in August, which I already have some pretty good meat on their bones on that one, is Moon and Marble. And that one is primarily, it starts off with an architect and a business mogul becoming friends, and sort of the timeline of events that occurs after that. And eventually you get to Diana Carter and I think it's Daniel or David, I can't remember which one right now, Daniel or David Park and his sister Alice, and sort of the dynamics between them. And the father character right now is pretty lived in, but I need to add more structure to the mother's character and the sister's character, and then the whole cast of characters is complete, and I can start moving the pieces around the board, as it were. I think I need 2 or 3 more plot elements. It's going to be there's going to be a bit of a time skip in there, so you're just having like little snippets of how you move through this girl's life. And then my ARC readers sort of bullied me into writing a tandem book of that, of just the main character, just the male main character. And that one's going to be Sun and Steel. And it's kind of going to be a darker rendition of the book. I don't think it's going to be nearly as popular, but I'd like to explore more male friendship dynamics and like sort of the stresses and rigors of being the heir to the legacy and stuff like that, and how that would feel and how you would go about that, and kind of the stresses and stuff like that. Because that's a big critique I've gotten from some of my Asian male friends, is that, you know, your father being really stern and unavailable emotionally and stuff like that puts a lot of additional stressors on them that I'd like to explore from like a creative aspect and shed light to that. And I also just want to sort of get to know that character more, not just from like a romance interest, but more as like his own person and stuff. Although I am interested, I am quite shocked that this book, in the promo series that I did of it, got as much interest as it did. I really thought that this was just going to be another passion project, but people really seem to be interested in it. And, you know, my entire life I've gotten like sort of flack for being interested in Asian men, and yet Asian men are on the come up right now. Like, Asian men are a hot commodity right now. And so I guess it's just like perfect timing to have that story sort of evolve and mature, because it is like in season, I guess, which is like forever. I thought I was going to put out this book and they'd just be like, whatever, weeb. And I'd be like, okay, well, like, you know, people have stories and they need to be told. David Mitchell at Cloud Alice, right? Oh, nice. Yeah, I think part of it is maybe the autism. Like, I don't really seem to understand the dynamics of people just generally. Like, I mean, I guess not to an extreme degree. For the most part, I understand, like, the base level of why people do things and stuff. But, like, on a deeper emotional level, like, for example, I seem to have difficulty with, like, female friendships and stuff like that because I don't fundamentally understand passive-aggressive nature. I understand its application, but I don't understand its use because to me it seems like very illogical and that it doesn't produce the desired results even in a vacuum. So that dynamic being implemented in sort of more female-driven zones is very confusing to me. So I think it would be really difficult for me to with intention create a passive-aggressive female character or even just a passive-aggressive character in general. Like, I understand how I think to write rage and disappointment and those kinds of things. Like, those are very at-home, familiar concepts for me. But passive-aggressiveness, this tendency to, like, say things that you don't mean and then be, like, shocked at their outcome, or just sort of just being, like, romantically cruel to someone that you're pursuing and stuff like that. These things are very confusing to me. And yet, in, like, drama and literature and stuff like that, to a degree, parts that form a whole. Yes, that would be very helpful. And you said that's David Mitchell, Cloud Atlas. Also, we have, let me pop down, I guess, while I'm just, where, book club, there we go. So I also have a book club. It's totally free to join. It is on Goodreads right now. I think that's so far the only link. Super easy to find. It's just Birdflock. I think it's Birdflock Book Club, but it's the Birdflock Book Cult. I just wasn't sure if I was able to use that word in the name. But that's what it is. Ideally, I try to make a literary cult where everybody can add. 1 second before I forget this. David Mitchell. Go ahead and add that. But understanding those kinds of dynamics and stuff, I think ultimately will make me a better writer and also will help me sort of understand the world in a broader sense better, which I think is always probably a good thing. So those are my goals for that. And then after Moon and Marble, I'm going to be writing book 2 of the Bite series, which is Thirst. And that one's kind of got more of like a villain arc in it, as well as I think he's a Black Flag character personally. There's like a sadomasochistic assassin that is demanding his backstory be told. So I've got to write that. Yes. I've got to write that. It's pretty fun. And it is essentially his backstory, through no forethought of my own, decided to be part of the world building of that sort of region. And I still haven't come up with a name for the entirety of the world, but I think that's fine because the main character is a sheltered girl, so she wouldn't have that information anyway. So that buys me a bit of a time due to my character's ignorance. And then in book 2, you're dealing with more of the nobility and the aristocracy, and they are more attuned to those things and more knowledgeable. So then you guys will then be able to glean and understand that knowledge. So I think for probably quite a while until I get all of the correct, followings in the correct places for social media and stuff like that, so that I can do like sort of more of a grander unveiling of those things. My plan is to just sort of have all of these books for free ARC reads for as long as I can do that. So Bite right now is available as a free ARC read, and then once I get my final edit back on like the chapter breaks, if those get approved, then that'll just go for sale. I'm trying to figure out how to do author copies of those and like signed author copies. I still haven't figured out how quite to do that yet. But once I figure that out, I think I'm probably just going to have to sell them on my own website, which I don't think that would be too difficult to set up, but just the logistics aspect of that is really troubling me right now. I don't quite know how to do that. I am considering doing a couple signed ebook editions, which I think will be much easier for me to implement. Because I think I can just figure out doing those with like a customer code or something like that, or some sort of like an email sales thing. I think I could probably figure that out with. But I'm still learning how to send the EPUBs to people for that. So if it's not like through Amazon or something like that, I've had a little bit of a sticking point on that recently. So I'm trying to hammer out all those kinks to that so that I can have like a true launch that isn't difficult for the people that want to have those things. But I'm working with like sort of a limited brain capacity in that aspect. So bear with me on that. Eventually it will be figured. But once again, in July, we're just going to probably play video games and then do a book club. So far we're doing just like fantasy or romantasy books. One of the other book clubs I got looped into is supposed to just be like sort of a romance book thing, but they are psychopaths. I'm almost convinced of it, because the last 3 books have been like listed as romances, but they're all thriller. They're all violent. They're all like super violent, like true crime thrillers. They're like, no, it's a romance. And I'm like, I don't think the intention of this book at all is to be a romance. You guys are real sick freaks. But I'll read pretty much anything. So I think that the next book they have me reading is Haunting Adeline, which I'm like, I don't know. I've gotten some pretty mixed reviews of that, but I just did not expect these very buttoned up sort of housewives to pick these books, to be honest. Oh, nice. Excellent. Be sure to change your profile ID to the tag of where you came from, just so I know who's who. Because for like weeks, I couldn't remember who I was talking to, and then they switched their username. I'm like, oh, I know exactly that person. So it's like very important for me to be able to categorize who and where you guys are coming from. Nice. Perfect. Oh, perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. That's also why I have I think it's a tips and recommendations is what I listed it under. Oh, nice. Hello. Excellent. That's why I have an ideas and feedback server, which it's giving me some sort of like review. Maybe it's down or something that I need to fix. Yeah, I'm not sure what its issue is specifically. But any help and feedback can go in that channel specifically, because anything that helps me sort of figure out launching and stuff. My ultimate goal is to have at least 22 books in the works, because I'm working on doing at least an Easter egg cover of each of the major arcana in a tarot deck, because I have this illustrator that is just phenomenal. Her name is Rachel Ross, and I probably should be gatekeeping her because she's fantastic and she's probably going to book. But she's just been lovely to work with, and I'd love to just give her all of my business for all of my covers at least once. And then if I have alternate covers in the future, patron some other artists as well. I'd like to do some sort of like, I really like the album cover contest that Baby No Money did for his recent drop. I think it was Meant to Be. That one's pretty good. So I think that I would probably open up commissions or something like that for the alternative cover of Where the Feedback Ends. Just because, like, I don't mind patroning artists, but first of all, it's very difficult to find where artists are. And second of all, it's very, very difficult to find artists within an indie budget, because having to, like, sort of bootstrap your own business is so, so expensive. That's the thing I think that most people don't really understand. It's like, Most people, if they have excess, yes, if they have like excess, like for example, when I was in entertainment and I was making like more money than I've ever made in my life. I'm also just a little bit lazy. I'm going to just preface it with that. Once I have met my base needs, I can go upwards of 20% above that, but I generally don't go above that threshold, really for any reason, because I value rest and relaxation and peace. And I think what I used to do is I would just garden for all the extra time. So once I worked 40 hours a week on my own schedule as a self-employed entertainer, I just gardened and read and like took my dog on a walk and stuff, RIP. But he, I think I traveled a little bit. I'm not really much of a traveler, but when you're trying to run a business, there's always avenues to put more money into it. So there is no really like end to what you can do. Like there's always more money you can sort of throw into your business. And I mean, like you can always do more advertising. You can commission art for it. And I'm seeing like all of these indie authors with like, I mean, these girls, these books are gorgeous. Like, I mean, some of them are not to my taste. Like personally, I wouldn't want like a stationery style paper type. It's endless. I mean, you could bankrupt yourself just putting money into a book because there is no end and you never know what is going to be the thing. And honestly, I think it's advertising, but I think that if you advertise a book that's not good, it doesn't matter how much advertising you put behind it. I don't think that people might buy it, but if people aren't recommending it and if you don't have at least 50% of people that enjoy like what they're reading, then that's probably a red flag. Also, editing is so crazy. Like even 10, 20 years ago, my understanding of an editor is they went through and they found plot holes and they fixed formatting and they made your book cohesive and the same throughout so that it looked visually stunning. Whereas now, editors for the most part do, from what I understand of the process, so much less than they have historically done, and it's just crazy to me. I've read some books that have gone through an editor, and it looks as though they are a self-edit book. And so I'm not sure if we should maybe as a society go back to like a guild-based system where there's like rankings for people in their given professions. That would be really helpful. Because what are you doing? You know what I mean? And you don't really, as an indie author, have like the luxury of just sort of taking someone's word that they can do a good job at those things. And maybe that's just me specifically. I'm a bit of a micromanager to an extent. A bit of a perfectionist, a little bit of a micromanager. I know it wouldn't look it with the chaos surrounding me, but I like things to be done a certain way. Like, I think I went through 12 edits of the first book before I even sent it in, because it was just, I had to go through a hard edit, and then I went through and I listened to it with an e-reader, essentially for like the visually disabled, which shout out to my buddy Daniel. He is blind, and he has totally explained so many hacks on the Apple ecosystem for blind people that help me just do everything. So invaluably helpful, because now I can read through my book and I can hear the grammatic errors and I can hear if I've just not connected two pieces that I needed to have connected for the plot. And so I'll go through and then do another pass on that. And then I do 3, 4, 5. I mean, I think pretty much every time I send a book to a person, I read through it to be like, oh, have I missed something? Because I made the mistake of giving one of my books to my cousin to edit because she was like, she's a big reader and she likes the genres that I wrote in. So I said, you know what? Yes, exactly. Because you're not going to notice if you put the in there just as a visual thing, especially if you have like partial dyslexia, ADHD, or you're just not paying that much attention. And when I read that in somebody's book, I don't fault them because I think, people make mistakes, it happens. I do put it in my notes app though. When I'm like reading in my ebook, I'm like, oh, there's an error. So if ever they were asking for community feedback, I'd be like, on page 37, you forgot this, like just looking out. But I don't think people do that. And I think for the most part, people don't really care. But if there's too many of those in a book, it's unreadable for me. I have to DNF it. Unless I've made a like specific commitment to that person to read their book, I have to DNF it. I can't handle that. Like for example, I tried to put in a placeholder for my author photo in the book, and it messed up the formatting for like the entire last third of the book. And when I got my prints back for that, I hadn't noticed it before I'd submitted it, and I was furious because I hand this book to my cousin to edit because she's begged and begged and begged to read this book. And she flips through, and of course, the very first page that she finds, the formatting is off by like a third of the page. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was so enraged in that moment. I was just like, I cannot believe that I would make such a harebrained mistake. She's never going to let me live this down. And she goes, yeah, I'm not going to be able to read the book if it's like that. And I'm like, first of all, like, the level of grandiose narcissist that this girl brings out of me is something I wish you guys to never see. But now I have to wait for an additional editor that is not her to go through the character or to go through the chapters because I fundamentally don't understand chapter pausing. So like, this is a chapter. I understand scenes because when I see this in my brain, I see it as playing out in real time. And I don't understand where you would put a marker in a lot of those things to be like a chapter within your brain. Like I see these as full length, like not really films, but just sort of like visualizations. So it's hard for me to conceptualize that in a chapter. I also don't read books based off of chapters. I read them in chunks. Like I read them in arcs, essentially. So that makes sense to me. But as far as like this should be this, I try to do like 1 or 2 scenes in a chapter. I sort of just go based off of length. Yeah, but it's like, what do you do? Like, you don't want to be a hater and be like, no, like, you can't read my book because then I just get, people want to be part of the journey, but they're not necessarily the best tool for it. Does that make sense? So I don't mind if she wants to read my books. I have nothing to hide. I don't think that the vast majority of the books I write will be great for my family, but they are in their own way supportive, but they're just not the people for the job, Exactly. Yeah, and so that's my goal, is to just have them be like, okay, and this is sort of where I would naturally like end off reading, and then they would put a mark there, and then I would make that into a chapter. Because I don't care how many chapters are in a book. I'm not intimidated if the chapter count is in the triple digits. I don't care. I used to read books that thick for fun, and then eventually, fun fact about me, I got called in a parent-teacher conference for that specifically because we had some sort of like reading marathon thing we were doing, and the basis of this childhood passage of what have you was that you had a log and you would write how much that you read in it, and then your parent would sign off on it, and I wouldn't do that but once a month or whatever because I would be reading several novels at a time, and novels, like big, thick novels. I read the entire Eragon series in like a month or something like that when I was a kid. It was nuts. I was reading like 1,000 chapters a day. And part of that we'll get to later because it does actually cause some problems with me in the writing sense because I use words that a regular person wouldn't. And so I've gotten a lot of feedback that in instances I should probably dumb it down. But we'll get to that. So I'm sitting in this parent-teacher conference, and they're like, there's no way she's reading this. And my parents just kind of roll their eyes and they're like, no, she is. Like, you wouldn't imagine how much we spend on books for this kid. Because there was like a thrift book store like down the street from the house. And so that was just what I did my allowance in. And you could get credit for the books you turned in. So I would get like 10 books. I would read them all. And then I would return them. I mean, infinite book hack, pretty much. Because the library was too far away and I have short legs. So I didn't go there but like maybe once a month. And at the library, they had manga. And so I could check out, I think, 13 manga at a time. And then they were like, yeah, you're checking out too many manga and not returning them fast enough. So they dropped me back down to 7. And I was like, fair enough, because other people want to read the manga. You can't just hoard the manga. But I lived far from the library and could not drive and was a child. So I couldn't do any of those things. But I was reading that much. And so when we had like the ultimate like goal of the whole reading marathon or whatever, we had like an ice cream party. And I actually had to give away a portion of the credits that I had accrued. And I was just like, I mean, I'm not going to go through all this. Like, I would literally make myself physically ill eating all of this ice cream. So why don't you guys just like on aggregate, give me the amount of ice cream that I want that is reasonable. And then just give the rest of the ice cream to these people that didn't read. And then I'll just yap at them about the books I read. And so I essentially became an early version of audiobooks for some of the children in our class, which was pretty fun. To the point where one of the Latino students that I sat next to from Mexico City was fluent in English by the time we graduated the 2nd grade. So that is a bit of the early life on me and books. I think we talked about some of the different wacky book things last stream too, where we had this like list of all of the books that could possibly be read. Yeah, isn't that nice? Fun fact, like I think 10 years after that interaction, I moved back. Yeah, pretty much. I moved back like 10 years later and I had 2 puppies. And that same kid that I taught English to, he got one of the puppies. And so we both had the same dog, which was pretty interesting. Real cool dude. And then, yeah. But, yeah, editors are just... So realistically, I need someone to tell me, like, where these should end. Because when I wrote the book initially, I did them in regions, so I was like, this is the country they're in, right? Yeah, it was really nice. He was a cool dude. I think he just got married and had a kid and stuff like that, but like we had a dog in common, which was pretty cool. It was like a bit of a blast from the past for him because he was looking to get another dog because he had a puppy that he wanted to raise in tandem with another dog for farming purposes. So that was cool. I like those kind of interactions where that can be done. And pretty soon we'll have another one of those with TNR stuff. I'll get to show you guys more kittens and sort of the volunteer work I do with that. Like I said, once I get to like just my base level of... Hi, sweetie. Do you want me to hold you? Oh, this was my wish. I hoped this would happen. Yay! This is Squirrel. She is a kitten that I fostered in 2020 that is now my permanent cat, along with her siblings, who are 2 packs of twins. I have twin orange and white boys, and I have twin gray and cream tabbies. Yeah, you guys really bamboozled mommy. You know that? Yeah. She is actually the best editor because she helped me write the first book, because every time I sit in front of my computer, it blasts hot air because it's a laptop. And so, yeah, she's such a good... Her given name is actually Scoia'tael because I was reading through the entirety of the Witcher series while I was raising her. And she was like the most feared bandit of the woods, and she would just tear around in the backyard and stuff. But I didn't think that the vet's office could spell Scoia'tael, and I didn't want to have to info dump on them every time I took her in. So Squirrel is the simplified version of her name. One day I'll get her like a little monogrammed tag that she will not wear, because she is also a bit strange. We suspect that this cat was cursed by a witch to have this form, because she doesn't act like any cat in the thousands of cats that I've had the pleasure of caring for in my lifetime. She is a strange, strange animal. But every time that I would sit here and I would start to write, she would sit in my lap, and then I would essentially be trapped in my chair for hours. And that's how I wrote 100,000 word romance in like 2 months. Because she doesn't really like to sit over here when I'm playing video games. Although she really enjoyed Baldur's Gate. She liked to, when it was going through the like combat at the top, she likes to like kind of get at them. Yeah. You're so helpful and smart. You know that? Eventually, I will be building a gaming PC with dual monitors in the... so here's the like ultimate plan for my office / computer room. Yeah. So I'll have a gaming PC, a gaming desktop, because I'm not a big fan of laptops, but I ended up with a laptop because I moved around a lot when I was doing entertainment, and so this was just the best thing to do, because I'm quite clumsy, and I was like, eventually I'm going to have to be in some multi-story whatever thing that I'm in, and I will for sure drop that entire desktop console just down the stairs somewhere, or it'll get like crushed in an elevator or something. So I was like, better to have something that I can pack around with relative ease, but it's not great for my purposes. What? You just being affectionate? You just being happy? Such a good kitty. But eventually I'll have a gaming PC, dual monitor, so I can see you guys' chat and what I'm up to, and ideally I'll be able to have you guys over here and then the book here, which will simplify things for me specifically. It's much easier to have all of the different things that I'm seeing, but there are a lot of functions that are like full screen only with Streamlabs and stuff. And then I would have in the background, I would have my office in there, in essentially the cat's bedroom, because I'm one of those wacky people that likes having a pet bedroom. And they would have like little shelf beds, essentially, kind of. So they'll get to see what's going on without wanting to like walk on my computer, because that's really what they want. I've seen a couple of different people in like my For You page and stuff where they have like a bassinet style setup next to their computer chair so that they can look and see stuff. And it's so cute. And then the two orange boys like to do battle, so I've got my computer guy is, funny enough, a very famous computer guy. I won't put him on blast yet, but I'm gonna have him build the computer, so it'll be what I need, because I don't understand any of that stuff fundamentally. He helped me fix the dropped frame rate thing on stream last time, which was very, very helpful, because that was a big problem I was having. And then Squirrel likes to chase bottle caps. She's a big fan of playing like air hockey throughout the house. So I'm going to have him design. He also does engineering stuff as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to try and have him make like a bottle cap dispenser. And maybe I can even figure out a way to code that in so that you can like drop toys and stuff for them, which I think would be really fun. Like, oh, okay, that's the jetted tub. I was like, oh my gosh, the house is under attack. But yeah, I think it would be cool to have like sort of an interactive office space, and like have things that you guys can get into. And I also am a big fan of like homesteading kind of stuff. So the second office where this laptop would then have permanent residence would be in a stone shed building. And then you guys can also have, like, I can play, like, farming games and stuff like that, literally in the shed with, like, chickens and the goats and stuff like that, just kind of, like, in the background. And, like, they'll come in and hang out and all of that. And then at the end of the day on every stream, what I would like to do is do, like a bird sign-off sort of a situation, because I'm nocturnal, and all my streams are quite late. And so in order to catch both the people that are late night stream watchers and also early risers to kind of bridge that gap. Because I usually go to bed at around 5 or 6 in the morning. I would like to, that's also prime time to milk dairy animals and such. And I'd like to eventually have at least 2 dairy goats. And so what I would do is I would milk the goats at like 5 o'clock in the morning my time, and then make like a bunch of little like milk saucers and stuff for all of the barn cats, because I intend to have an army of barn cats. That's a very near and dear to me sort of project with like TNR research and just agricultural and stuff like that. And so then every day you guys will have a different video of me milking a goat, or like, I guess in the season where you wouldn't be milking goats, it would be some sort of like chicken-based adventure. And then while I'm sleeping, you guys will get to like sort of watch like the occurrences and stuff to the day. And eventually I would like to have just sort of like an entire like sort of all day compendium of content for you guys, of like you guys would be able to like check in to the like writing / cat room, and then you guys would be able to like check into like the farming shed animal area. And then we do like, I would really like to do like a cooking stream where we like cook fresh stuff and all of that and talk about like books. Because really, you know, my partner was asking me the other day, he's like, well, isn't that like different genres of stuff? Don't they advise against that? And I would be inclined to agree with him if the basis of this entire enterprise wasn't just me yapping. It's just me yapping ad nauseum all day long. And essentially that just sort of lends itself more to like sort of an ASMR sort of situation of me just yapping and yapping. So, I mean, really sort of sky's the limit with that, because I haven't necessarily pigeonholed myself into yapping about one particular thing necessarily. And if I do, you guys will tell me, and then I'll niche down into that anyway. And then we'll just, you know what we're up against on that as far as content goes. But that is the ultimate plan of how to make this entertainment empire essentially once again. And then hopefully there will be books that come of it. I'd like to also do, I've got several other books on the boilerplate right now. There's I'm probably never going to get better at editing like the streams and stuff like that, but luckily there's all kinds of different things going into that. I'm working on making a cookbook for my mother-in-law also, so I'm going to have to put some of my resources towards that as far as time and commitment and stuff like that. But if I can do that for her, then that means I can absolutely do it for me. And then eventually, exactly, and then eventually we'll have like a stream cookbook of like stuff that we've watched on stream, like not necessarily, I think, to the level of like Babish, but I think somewhere close, because I'm also pretty interested in cooking like medicinal stuff and things from nature. Like last spring, I'm a big fan of Clarkson's Farm, and that's a series dedicated to Jeremy Clarkson, who is a media darling of Europe, and I guess more specifically the UK. Then he's famous for Top Gear and the Grand Tour. He's like a very famous elderly British man that drives a plethora of different vehicles. And he has used his immense wealth to purchase a farm in the Cotswolds. I think it's the Cotswolds. And Chippington Norton, more specifically. And he has a farm, and he has all these different investments. And I find it really interesting watching him, because you can see from coming from an entertainment aspect, like the things that he thinks of and how that wouldn't necessarily translate to someone that's just like only been in the agricultural industry. And I really feel that resonates with me, because the things that I think of, like, for example, like goat milking videos and stuff like that, and goat milking videos that are also yapping about other things. I mean, how often do you go on, like, for example, like TikTok and stuff like that, and somebody's talking about like a traumatic breakup, and it's like a Minecraft video or whatever. So people's people's attention spans are already sort of primed to that. But if you could get entertainment in the things that you're speaking and education in the things that you're viewing, those are my favorite videos, where you're watching someone like weave a basket, but also hearing something entertaining. Yes. Exactly. And I love that. And I think that he's done a really, really big thing for the agricultural and farming community, because there are shows about farming on like PBS and stuff, but nobody gives a shit about any of that. He's figured out how to use the talent stack of him being in the entertainment industry to make an entertaining show while also discussing and I had this idea years ago. I just didn't have the technology and understanding of filmography at the time to be able to implement it. I wanted to construct a show, which is so funny, called Pit Bulls and Pastures. And this would have been around about the time that like Swamp People and those kinds of things were coming in, like where the docu-series and stuff like that was getting really hot. But I didn't understand film at all. I had to be in entertainment to understand that. And people love that. People love little sort of slice of lives of other people and how they're living. You know, I mean, even if they never intend on being farmers themselves, maybe you catch 10% of the audience that does want to do that in the future. And now you're essentially imparting knowledge that would have been lost to them, or they wouldn't have even known how to look into that at all. I met kids the other day up at my work at the bakery, and they were asking me about mushrooms. They are foragers. They forage for mushrooms, and they didn't know that certain mushrooms are bioluminescent. They only knew about the thing they were looking for, and they didn't even know to look into these other things. They didn't know that willow bark is essentially nature's aspirin. They didn't know that you can weave willow into a hedge. There was just such a gap in knowledge in those things. And I think that if you can figure out how to make something entertaining, then you can also add in elements of education. And the people that are interested in that will really just gorge on it. And I mean, that's how I learned that you can make nettle soup. I mean, for forever, I've just been being stung by nettles. I didn't know that I could take back their power and construct essentially a very delicious potato and cream based soup with them that's an antihistamine. And so in the spring, I honestly, I'm probably going to do it this summer as well, because it's the very early summer. And I just cut all of the leaves up off of the stinging nettles in the yard that are just sort of volunteers. I did try and transplant them. They don't transplant well. So I need to just really pay attention to when they go to seed and collect stinging nettle seeds, because I'd like eventually to have stinging nettles on my farm. And I know you're thinking, that's probably weird. Why would you transplant stinging nettle seeds? Isn't that a weed? Technically, I think it would be categorized as that, but it would be great to put that somewhere where I don't want things to be. You know, if I want people to not be going in a certain area that I've got, I could essentially craft a stinging nettle fence to keep things away from that I don't want over there. And also, it's good for your immune system. So, like buttonweed, that's a thing that people don't care for, and generally just like Roundup and stuff like that. But I think that's probably big pesticide. It's probably late enough in the stream that I can discuss my conspiratorial theories. But buttonweed, for example, is something that people have constantly wanted to get rid of my entire life. Everybody's spraying it, pulling it out, throwing it away, burning it. They don't want it at all. Exactly. And here's the funny part. Squirrel, every year, she likes to turn this, I think it's salvia or Russian sage, or a culmination of those two plants, but it's a big bush that looks like lavender but isn't. And it's good for pollinators, but she likes to make little tunnels and burrows. And with the way that the nettles grow within that, sometimes she wants to play outside until sunset, and I'll be like, "Come on, squirrel, it's time to come in," because I know the types of predators that prowl around in this particular biome, and they respect me, but they probably wouldn't respect a 10-pound little cinnamon roll. And so I say, come on, it's time to go inside. And fun fact, I've taught every foster litter of kittens that I've had a little bedtime song, which is very handy when they get to be adults if they end up being your cats, because then you can call them in quite easily because they associate it with getting dinner at night, and sometimes they just associate it with getting affection and love from you. So they all come running except for Squirrel, because she knows the tricks, because she's probably not just a cat. And she makes these little burrows within this bush that's surrounded and intermittent with nettle. And I don't know that it stings her because she's covered in fur, so she kind of has a bit of a physical barrier to the little hairs on there that are the mechanisms for stinging you. And so you can't physically remove her from this bush because of the nettles, and she knows that. And so every year she constructs what we like to call Fort Snarf, because she has a bit of a deviated septum from some abnormalities she had as a kitten. I mean, this cat, it's a miracle that she's even existed. Those are always the ones that end up getting you. Everybody knows in the TNR and the veterinary community, it's always the ones that you think that are going to die, or the ones that have some sort of some sort of malady that end up being your forever pet. Like the two gals that I used to farm sit for, they had a dog that went through their veterinary program when they were students, and he had like parvo or some sort of like autoimmune disease or whatever, and then that became their forever pet. Because if you work in the medical industry to any extent, you love a good charity case. Squirrel, for example, had one of the most severe navel hernias. It was insane. I actually, while she was just a tiny potato little kitten, I had her in sort of a girdle, essentially, to keep that from escalating into a very serious medical issue until she was large enough to get spayed, which is the procedure at which you would spay an animal is actually also one that's very handy for fixing that particular type of hernia. And guess who hated that device and fought against it at every turn? And she was just a wild child. She would climb her cage that I had all of the cats in, because when they're little, they actually have to be confined to a much smaller space, because they don't deal well with large spaces when they're really small, because they can't get to the bathroom because their legs are like that long. And we had, quite a huge expanse for them to play and stuff, but they were just too little to be able to make proximity-based decisions. She would also try and throw herself off of the stairs. She would just get into things that were insane. Her sister, one of the gray and cream twins, she came to me, and when I first got her as a foster, she's either their biological sister from a different father, because they can have multiple litters within the same litter genetically as cats, or she's from a very close related litter that was had almost at the same time, and then is technically her neonatally adopted sister. But they come from the same stock, because the next litter that happened had the exact same split of calicos and gray and white tabbies, so it's probably just the same litter, but elsewise. Anyhow, she was so severely, Muffin was so severely malnourished when I got her that she essentially looked like a bobblehead, kind of. She had a very large head and a very tiny body that was just skin and bones. And so I had to do a bunch of extra work to get her back to her baseline health. And due to the severity of her dehydration and her malnourishment, she was actually mute for the first year. So she had some sort of trauma to her vocal cords, or just didn't have the strength in that particular area to like form speech. And so the cats would like lock her in closets. So I was constantly having to go around, and luckily Squirrel's a bit of a tattletale. So she would say, excuse me, someone's over here. And she would just circle in front of doors, and then we would retrieve her sister from closets and stuff. So immediately knew that these two cats were going to be permanent residents. And then, you know, the twins are just the twins. They're sweet orange boys. They share the same brain cell, so it's never quite certain what they're up to. But ultimately, I would like to be able to be in a position where I can teach you guys like basic medical care and stuff like that for all the little critters that I intend to have on my little farm. And to teach you guys, I mean, basically just to teach really anything, you know, writing, cooking, and ideally you guys would teach me to play video games because I'm not that good at video games, as you guys have probably seen from the playthrough of this Quarantine Zone game. Like I didn't fundamentally understand that drone could be moved, so I think I died like 8 times or something like that. I was crazy. But, yeah, I mean, big plans in the future, and hopefully that continues to expand over time. Because, I mean, even the Discord has been really fun for me, learning how to do that, and sort of the expansion of all of that has been really fun, actually. I really enjoyed that. But, let's see. We'll probably end at about 2:30 today, just because I don't have a ton of energy, and I have to work a double tomorrow. I was trying to do a full 3 hour. I think we'll get pretty close to that, if I did the math right. Let me see. We're nearly at 250. Yeah, I think we'll get there. I think we'll be like right on the money for that. I tried to do 3.5 hour streams so I could get 3. But I don't think OCD is gonna win today. What else? Well, let's see if we can get through. Yeah, it should be about 3 hours. Ideally, I try to start these closer to 8:30, but it was so crazy. I didn't wake up until 9:30 today. I was so drained and had, like, no energy. I went to bed last night at, like, I think it was 5:30 in the morning, and then I didn't wake up until 9:30 because I just had little to no energy. And where's it at? My coworker texts me at 1:50, hey, can you cover the last 2 hours of my shift? I want to go to this party. And I'm like, buddy, we've talked about this. You cannot ask me to do anything same day because it's possible that I'm in a complete coma. And I'm just like, he's young though. He'll get it eventually. But, and we're working with a new system up there at the bakery too, so that's got to take a lot of, I mean, any new change to my schedule just wipes me out. Like, I think on, was it Wednesday was the first day I used the new system up there, and it was everything to deal with that. And then I had to do prep cooking, and I didn't get home until like 11:30, almost midnight. Summertime is such a drain for me. You would think it would be better because more sunlight, more vitamin D, that kind of thing, but it just is. Summertime is the most energy-driven time in the entirety of the year for me. Winter, I just get to do sort of whatever I want. I'm pretty good about systematizing my chores and stuff. So, like, even having, like, livestock and pets and stuff, it really, realistically, is about an hour's worth of work, maybe an hour and a half in, like, deep snow. Because I have, like, heated water set up that I set up in the fall and run through and test. And then I have, I try to make it so that everything sort of has a, like a 2 to 3 day food stuff. So if we have, like, a blizzard or something, they're in their designated stall and they're good. Yeah, we were really close to, we were really close to the fires, actually. We were within, like, 5 miles of the last giant fire that we had. I want to say that was last season. But I'm a big fan of fires, personally, because I know that the growth and stuff is going to be phenomenal the next year, and it burns off a lot of the dead and stuff. So that stuff is pretty cool. but you have to put systems into place. So, like, for example, if it was more within my power, I would do like a water swelling system, and I would have like fire resistant agriculture and stuff around. I'm saying stuff a ton, but you essentially create like a moat between your property and things that are important. You don't put a wheat field right next to your shed, you know what I mean? Because that's very flammable. You put like little zones essentially on where the different things are. Chickens and poultry and stuff are great for that too, because you can essentially make just a dirt barrier to things. They're really good at that. So I had them going through, and in one of my fields that was like pretty heavy with I think it's just naturally meadow barley, but I've switched it almost completely over to lamb's quarter and buttonweed, which, by the way, circling back to that, buttonweed is just common mallow, which is how they made marshmallows before they developed gelatin. So you can make natural marshmallows that are also medicinal, and I think the root system of those does something good for your stomach. I'd have to look that back up. But I'd like to make some of those because I have a ton of those, so I have to harvest some of the little berries and stuff that come off of there. I don't want it to go to seed, though, because it doesn't need to go to seed. It's already covering. But the ground over there is already, like, I'd say 5-10 degrees cooler, just because I've switched it from a barley-based canopy to a lamb's quarter and mallow sort of undergrowth. And then I have my canopy that I've put there artificially is a mammoth sunflower. So in the spring, it gets about a couple of feet tall. And then by the summer in the heat, one of them's like 5-6 foot already. And the leaves are like this big. So when the chickens come out to forage and graze and stuff, there's plenty of like high shade areas. And then in the fall, that goes to seed and makes these huge flowers that you can... Yeah, I tried to do clover, but the clover just didn't do very well. I was hoping it would be better, but the lamb's quarter kind of choked it out a little bit. Although I did outcompete the blue mustard, which is what I was trying to get out of there. There was a lot of native blue mustard, and it's very pretty, but it is terrible as far as a livestock feed because it makes everything taste weird and gross. And it can increase the abortifacient properties, I think. I think that's one of the abortifacents. And so I try to cull those from the soil as soon as I can, because there's other plants that are more beneficial, like yarrow and stuff like that, that aren't going to do that. They're going to provide pretty well the same kind of coverage. Small fires are important. Yeah, small fires are great, and also they're good for, if I could do, like, I try to have a big bonfire sort of fire pit over near the chickens, because when it cools, they like to bathe in the ashes. That's good for pest management, and it's also just fun. Like, little fires are fun. You can throw different things into it, like if you throw, like, dried mint and stuff like that into the fire, or rosemary. Those will keep mosquitoes away. So if you burn the right things in the fire, the smoke will keep the bugs off of you and stuff. So you can have like late night streams next to the fire pit. And yeah, in the fall, those giant sunflowers put off like a ton of seeds, and it's really fun to watch. I just like to sit out there sometimes and watch the roosters knock the seeds down for the hens. It's really cute and sweet. Eventually, I would like to, my ultimate, like, chicken coop plan is to have, like, a wall of woven berry bushes. I think for my berry bushes, I would like to have thornless, but I think it's important to have thorned berries for, like, a hedge sort of situation to keep predators from going through. And it's guys, it's so cute to watch them do their little foraging activities. It's so fun. Plus, we have a lot of deer up here that really enjoy doing little foraging and... Hi, sweetie. Oh, nice. Nice. Do you guys get huckleberries up there in the region you're in? I know there's a bunch of different provinces in Canada, and I'm not great at those. I think Alberta is north of us. Alberta's just above the Pacific Northwest, and then one of my girlfriends, she lives in the Ontario province, I think, which is just above the Great Lakes, if I'm recalling correctly. Those are pretty much the only two that I know of. Also, insofar as blueberries and raspberries, I'd like to have golden raspberries because the birds are less prone to eat the golden raspberries because they are looking for ripening qualities like dark blushed berries. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, so that's like... Oh, nice. Yeah, you're like dead above Idaho, aren't you? That's cool. Yeah, nice. Huckleberries are big down here. Real big. I think last year they were $80 a gallon. That hopefully, I think after the fire, they go down. But it's possible that we'll have a price spike on those because of the fires. Oh, nice. Nice, nice. But yeah, so golden raspberries, I think, is what I'm going to try to do. And then there's a new strain of blueberries that's like a lemonade blueberry, and they come off as more of a blush yellow, light pink. So they're fully ripened. It's essentially just like a form of like albinism in those two plants, and it's supposed to trick the birds. So I'd like to have those. I like to have just like a ton of berry bushes. I love raspberries, but I don't think I could cultivate a raspberry without it going poorly. I mean, I'll try. I'll try anything grown out there. I think raspberry leaves are good for teas and stuff like that as well. But I have an ultimate plan, and I talked with, I actually went berry picking yesterday very briefly because there's an orchardist that I'm friends with. And I said, do you do consultations? And he says, no. And I said, well, what if I bat my eyelashes and ask real nice? And he said, well, for you, I guess I would. And so I'd like to have him work in tandem with the permaculturist that I know. She's quite talented. And ultimately, when I get the property that I would like to have, I would have the two of them work in tandem to tell me where exactly I should put these plants based off of what I'd like to do. And I think they both have an agricultural background. So if I tell them sort of like the structures that I'd like to put out as far as like the chicken coop, and I'd like to have like a little barn, and my partner would like to have an at-home gym sort of dojo situation so that we could have private lessons as well as have like kind of his own space for that. Because I'm a real big fan of having different quadrants for different things, because when you do a one room for everything, like studios and stuff, they have their purpose if you're trying to do space management in a small area, or like for guests and stuff, for example. But for long term, I think it's bad for you mentally to try and do multiple different things in one room, which is what I'm doing right now, which is not ideal. I'd like to have a designated office and have a designated shop and have a designated like these kinds of things. But I would like to have them work in tandem and have different trees. Like, for example, I'd like to for sure have an apricot tree, for sure have a plum tree, but I don't, exactly. But I don't have the horticultural knowledge on those things specifically. And there is, if you put things too close together that can interbreed, you'll essentially ruin the tree once it reaches maturity. So then that'll be together. But he also teaches a pruning class and stuff like that, which I'd like to take so that I can maintain those things after they're implemented. But yeah, I'd basically just like to essentially create my own like sort of nirvana. Oh yeah, so interesting. I forgot I'm sponsored by Factor. So if anybody is interested in chef crafted meal service kits, this is fully done for you. You don't have to cook any of it yourself, or you don't have to prep any of it yourself. It's just arrives, you cook it, you eat it. For people that don't have the time or really the energy like I do today to make something for themselves, go ahead and check out Factor. They've got a bunch of really great options. I think I saw a lot of sort of Mediterranean sort of chicken things that they have on offer. They also have protein shakes if you're trying to hit your recommended protein for the day. I haven't figured out how to implement the links on my Twitch just yet. But feel free to hit me up in the Discord if you guys are looking for any of that. I'll shoot those off to you. Because, you know, good nutrition is really important to like having enough energy and being able to do the things that you want to do. Plus, it's good to try new things for food. I know that I've gotten meal services in the past that have made even me, like, and I'm an avid cook, things that I wouldn't have even thought to try that I really enjoyed. Like, that's actually some of my favorite quick pickling recipes have come from meal prep kits and stuff. So if you're thinking about boys, we have Orange Boy Panther Showdown on the bed right now. Come on, you guys. Yeah, your brother says it's bedtime, and he says it's time to catch these hands. Crazy boy cats. But anyhow, I'm probably gonna wind down and get these kitties some dinner, and then send them off to bed because they're getting crazy naughty. Yeah, are you trying to tattle on them, sister cat? You're a little bit of a tattletale. You know that? I can see that they're being naughty. You don't have to tell me. So cute. Well, for everybody that stayed on the stream or just stopped in, I very much appreciate it. I will be back on probably Monday. I think I have to do a little bit of prep on Monday as well, but we'll see how Saturday rolls out. And I'll be sure to take some pictures if I get to making the fruit salsa. I know a couple people inquired about that as well. It's great talking to you guys, and I hope to see you next time. If anybody hasn't yet, be sure to hop on the Discord. I've got announcements on there when I go live to stream because my time management's not the best. But